From the Mumbai studios of Republic TV, it's time for the debate.
In our COVID fight. Today India fights the good COVID fight is won. We don't let divisive politics, we don't let armchair critics, we don't let anybody divide us no matter what they try and say. We fight this fight with hope. And that's also something we're going to debate today, because this is an exceptional fight that is being fought as one between the centers and the states coming together as one unit. That's something we're going to debate as one. Let me tell you what our debates today are going to be. Debate number one, as we show you an exceptional fight and unity between the center and the state coming together. At 10 o'clock, we show you reports that show Team India's spirit as one. No more are we going to let any armchair critics think they can divide us. And here are the headlines this Tuesday evening. The COVID cases plateauing in 18 states, but concerns over upward trajectory in 16 states. The centre backs for national level implementation of Mumbai model for effective handling. The government tells states to prioritize second dose and reserve 70% stock for booster shot. Eleven COVID patients reported dead after disruption in oxygen supply in a government hospital in Tirupati. It's now the WHO that's praising the UP government for aggressive testing and surveillance in rural areas. And good news, US regulator gives the nod for Pfizer jabs for children as young as 12 years of age. Inoculation is to begin soon. Ladies and gentlemen, we're at a very important juncture in our COVID fight. What we witnessed in the last 1 month has been an unprecedented cooperation between the centre and the state, and let no armchair critics try and fool us on that. However, as we show you what Team India has been doing in the past 1 month, we show you the plateauing that's been taking place. We also tell you before our debate how this has been extremely effective, the unity between centres and state cooperation.
Asia's largest slum, Dharavi, has been a point of concern in the first and second wave. But after an effective strategy and a fight, the most congested area in Mumbai is now witnessing single-digit COVID cases for the first time in 2 months.
धारावी में पिछले 24 घंटे में और 2 महीने बाद सिंगल डिजिट यूनिट पर यानी 9 कोविड-19 के नए केसेस सामने आए थे, जिसको देखते हुए अब प्रेजेंट पर देखा जाए जहां पर धारावी में कुल मिलाकर 727 एक्टिव कोविड-19 के केसेस हैं और वहीं पर 5,561 पेशेंट जो है अब तक रिकवर हो चुका है.
And the BMC's strategy is being lauded for its effectiveness, a strategy that centre wants to emulate at a national level.
मुख्यतः वहां पर किया ये गया कि सिटीजन एंगेजमेंट के लिए जो कंट्रोल रूम का था वह मुंबई कॉरपोरेशन के लेवल पर ना करते हुए उसको 24 वार्ड में 24 कंट्रोल रूम बनाए गए और जितने भी वहाँ टेस्ट रिजल्ट्स आते थे उन टेस्ट रिजल्ट्स को मेन कंट्रोल रूम में लेते हुए, जो भी लैब्स थी उनसे डेटा लेते हुए उसको वार्ड वाइज सेग्रीगेट किया गया और सेग्रीगेट करके उन रेस्पेक्टिव वार्ड वाइज कंट्रोल रूम्स को भेजा गया। हमारा एफर्ट आप लोगों के द्वारा बताने का यही है कि जरूरी है कि ये पॉजिटिव एफर्ट नेशनल लेवल पर सब लोग मिलकर करेंगे तो हम ओवरऑल प्रोसेसेस को ईज कर पाएंगे।
What this entire exercise shows is an effective center-state coordination, because this level of federalism is also helping the country in meeting the oxygen challenge.
एक वर्चुअल सेंट्रल कंट्रोल रूम सेटअप किया गया है जिसमें भारत सरकार तथा स्टेट्स यूनियन टेरिटरीज के सीनियर ऑफिसर्स हैं जो कि अपने आपस में इंफॉर्मेशन एक्सचेंज के साथ साथ कोई भी अगर प्रॉब्लम आती है तो इमीडिएटली फ्लैश करते हैं और उसका तुरंत सॉल्यूशन रियल टाइम बेसिस पे राउंड द क्लॉक किया जाता है।
In the last 1 month, we have seen many examples of center-state cooperation. Kejriwal has thanked Centre for increasing oxygen supply. Prime Minister Modi himself praised Kerala government on its steps taken for vaccine wastage management. 75 oxygen tankers from United Kingdom were immediately sent to Jharkhand to meet the state's needs. Tamil Nadu got more oxygen allocation immediately after Stalin spoke to the Prime Minister. And the central government ensured that Chhattisgarh got enough vaccines. Because every state government, the bureaucrats, and those fighting the COVID battle know that this is not a state-specific fight, but a fight that the nation is fighting as one. Let's debate.
A very good evening to all my panelists, and as we begin this discussion that's going to be filled with a lot of hope, and hope is where India is going to go forward with, let me welcome on our debate Gaurav Bhatia, Senior Advocate, National Spokesperson for the BJP, Ishkaran Singh Bhandari, who's joining us, lawyer from Delhi, Ranjit Keshav, political analyst who's live from Trivandrum with us, Dr. Swati Maheshwari, infectious disease specialist who's also live from Delhi with us, Dr. Vishal Rao, he's Dean Center for Academic Research, HCG Cancer Center and member of Expert Committee COVID Task Force, Government of Karnataka. We're also joined by Saeed Islam, political analyst who's joining us live from Bangalore, Ketan Vaidya, journalist live from Delhi, and Vikas Gupta, lawyer and political analyst also joining us live from Delhi. Gentlemen, ladies, as I welcome you today, my first question is going to be with the doctors because we need to try and understand where the upward trajectory is, where the plateauing is, and where is India moving forward. So Dr. Rao, as I welcome you on the debate, I ask you, we've seen in several states there is a plateauing. These are states like Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, Delhi, Rajasthan, Haryana, Chhattisgarh, Bihar, Gujarat, approximately 18 states that are showing a decreasing trend. This is good news. Dr. Vishal Rao, we need to continue following the COVID appropriate behavior, but what are the things that need to be kept perpetually in mind since several people continue warning us? We have to take our vaccines, that's one thing. What are the precautions also that need to be kept in mind even now as we're in the very middle of the second wave?
Thank you, Rhythm, for inviting me to the show. What we are obviously seeing in the next few days is that the peak is while we have still not reached the peak, the lockdown has definitely helped us a lot in many of the states to bring down these numbers and start the plateauing phase. But while we are looking at that, I think a very important data that's coming out is there is a lot of mutations out there and a lot of new variants that are emerging from this virus. So the only way we need to curb this is, I think, to ramp up the vaccination. And I think that's what all the states are currently focusing on, because virologists are time and again warning us that maybe the third wave would be targeting children. So the need of the hour currently is locking and loading. I would say that we lock down, we aggressively ramp up the vaccination and protect our people. That I think would be the key message that I would like to give at this juncture.
Dr. Rao, very, very critical because we've seen in states like Karnataka, that is the one thing that's being done. I also want to ask Dr. Maheshwari that. Dr. Maheshwari, very critically, what Dr. Rao has said is something everyone is talking about. They say the third wave could possibly be targeting the children. What are the precautions that need to be taken for the younger generation?
Absolutely. See, we have seen that the virus, gets selective adaptive pressure when it faces immunity, and also push from the vaccination side. And that's what we are seeing with the present virus as well, that it's trying to mutate, it's trying to make it more adaptive. And that's what we are also, kind of apprehending now, that as the virus is mutating itself, it will move more towards the population which is more naive, more virgin, and that is our children and our pregnancy males. And so therefore they are at a higher risk right now. That's why, we need to prepare at various levels right now, not just as a parent, but as school authorities as well, and also as the administration needs to gear up for the coming wave as well, because what we are hearing now is that the vaccines would be deficient for a coming while, and it will take us next 2 or 3 months to actually be replenished with vaccines, and that is a huge gap that we have right now, and that's why we need to prepare even well, especially when we are talking about the third wave, which can hit us and looks very likely as well. So we really need to, as parents, I would suggest people that they need to work on the immunity of their children. They need to work on 3 things, that their diet should be well planned. They should be able to give them lots of healthy fruits and vegetables, and lots of kids are deficient in calcium, iron, and such kind of micro deficiencies are there, which they should, as parents, look after it and talk to their pediatricians to solve it as early as possible. Second, definitely they need to work on their lungs, make them more exercise. They can do simple exercises like blowing balloons or, blowing candles or blowing water into tumbler, which are very simple exercises, and kids enjoy them as well. Third, teach them about the significance of hygiene as to how to wash your hand properly with soap and water, because the early years are also habit-forming years. So the sooner we do this, the better, and it will help them in their entire life. And fourth of all, we know that masking and all. But eventually, once we are out of the second wave, what we really need to look at as well, that what would be that critical level where we will open the schools and close them back again if we see the third wave arising. So that would be a very, very tricky thing and very important thing for the school authorities and the administration to look at as to how we are going to reopen the schools, and also would there be a critical value where we'll shut them down. Fourth thing, which is very essential, is for the administration to see whether we have ample ventilators, ample facilities, ample doctors for the children, because like we saw right now in the second wave, we were caught in the midst of the storm where we didn't have all these medical paraphernalias and we fell short on them. That should not happen. Once, if we are approaching the third wave, then we should be very, very prepared for that. And as of that, I do say that vaccination definitely has to be our to-go tool right now. And like Pfizer has allowed, kids vaccination in US. For 12 to 18, they've been allowed. Even similarly, I think Covaxin also did earlier trials with children who are above 12 years of age. And I think we need to revisit the entire trial and see if Covaxin can be given to people who are above 12 years of age. So I think that should be another thing, because they also started trials in Nagpur. So we should look at that as well and see if we can use our own vaccine and, kind of start vaccinating the children also. The major concern, I'm sure, would be the availability of vaccines, and I think that is what we should work on right now, as to how to ramp up the production, be it roping in more companies to actually start the production, be it getting more vaccines like Pfizer and Moderna and Johnson & Johnson into our kitty, or be it the distribution of the vaccines as well, because if we are short of vaccines right now, then we need to strategize as to what people we should be actually giving the vaccine right now, and not just give vaccines like this to anybody and everybody, because we need to look at hotspots and see if we can curb the infection more at the hotspots. So can we vaccinate faster at the hotspots so that we can save the others? I think that is a strategy that we really need to look at right now.
Yes, absolutely. And like the doctors have said, vaccination is the way ahead. Gaurav Bhatia, Ketan Vaidya on the debate. Now, Gaurav, I want to ask you, when there is hope, when India is on the right track, why some continue to be negative? Why some continue to paint a picture of a center and a state that are divided? Because all I hear when we talk to doctors, and we've been talking to doctors on Republic TV for a long time, there is hope, and that's the way ahead. Gaurav, if I can give this figure to you and Ketan and all of our panelists who are with us, are we not on the right track when after 61 days, India has now recorded a net decline of 30,016 COVID-19 cases recorded from the total active caseload and the total number of recoveries that have crossed the total cases? There is a lot of scope that needs to go forward, Gaurav and Ketan, but the larger picture here, there is a unity that we are seeing when we see how Karnataka is trying to follow the Maharashtra model, how the health ministry today praises the Maharashtra model, the Mumbai model, and the state government?
Rhythm, first of all, on your show, this is a very positive debate. So I would like to proceed in the same spirit. And I would like to salute the two doctors and all the doctors and the frontline workers who are working day and night to ensure that they save human lives. They save the lives of our brothers and sisters. Having said that, I would like to say the mantra that the Prime Minister gave to the entire country was that Team India has to fight against this deadly virus. And this is the only way, Rhythm, that India will ensure that we defeat this pandemic. Now, what matters the most is human lives. It doesn't matter what one party is telling the other party, which state is doing what. The only thing that matters is that if a citizen is suffering and that citizen requires medicine, oxygen, ventilators, bed, are the governments, the center government and the state government, coming forward to ensure that there is adequate supply of the same. And in that spirit, we need to learn what yesterday BMC Commissioner Iqbal Singh Chahal had said. He said that, there was likelihood that there would be an oxygen short supply in Mumbai, and he made an SOS call to the cabinet secretary. Within 10 seconds he got a call, and after that oxygen was diverted for Mumbai and we were able to save precious human lives. Now if you ask me, that life which has been saved is the life of an Indian citizen. Our identities, our regional, religious, caste identities all merge to be one, and that one identity is of being an Indian. And doctors feel the same. Narendra Modi ji feels the same. The chief ministers feel the same. The only deterrent to a good fight is when certain leaders spread propaganda. They try to rely on falsehood. And I will just give you an example without even naming the leader, because this is not about politics. There was a tweet on 3rd of May by a very senior political leader, and he said that in the month of March and April, the central government has not ordered any vaccine. And then I have in my hand a release from the PIB. The fact is that on 28th of April 2021, an advance payment of around 2,500 crores has been made to two companies that are producing the vaccine, and 16 crore doses have been ordered for the month of May, June and July. Now, what is the lesson? The lesson is that if you try to just spread propaganda to gain some political brownie points, people will not forgive you during the time of pandemic. And yes, if Maharashtra is doing a good job at utilizing the oxygen allocated, we need to learn from them. If UP has a good oxygen monitoring control room with tankers having GPS fitted to it, we need to learn from that. If any other state, be it an opposition-ruled state, is doing something good, why can't we adopt that? And the entire country benefits from it. And that is the mantra Narendra Modi ji has been talking about. Team India, one India. There are no regional, boundaries right now, and this is the only mantra by which we can defeat COVID.
Oh yes.
And I
Ethan
tried my
Vaidya, then
best
I ask
not
you,
to do
why
any
are armchair
politics.
critics still critical? Why is the Western media trying to play a narrative that is completely narrow-minded, that is not realizing that this is federalism that we are seeing, which is unprecedented. This is the beauty of our country. Whether the center is acknowledging the left-ruled Kerala's handling of the COVID, when we see that, whether the center donates cylinders to Jharkhand that has asked for it, whether the civil ministry ensures that Telangana can use drones for experimental delivery, that's been asked for them. This is a united cohesion working that is unprecedented, that's being seen in India when this is Team India coming together.
Well, myself and Rajiv Bhatia, in a positive sense, we have sparred over on political issues so many times in the past. However, I would like to keep the tone and tenor positive of this debate, and that is what our countrymen want currently. They want positivity, they want succor, and I'm completely on board on you with on that front. However, while we are talking about positivity and while we are talking about succor, we should also consider the ground facts. And the ground facts are, like, I'm in Delhi, and I read that officially in the month of April, there were 950 cremations that were done in this city alone. So the expanse and the extent of the problem is huge, and many a times radical problems require radical measures. We should, and we have already treated this as a national emergency. This year was an exception. Our health budget was way ahead, but consistently for the next 4-5 years, we should keep our budget between 5 to 6%. We should have a national program, and the beauty of our system is federalism, and we should adhere to it. It's said that in Mumbai or in certain developed cities, if you go 30 kilometers out of city, you see the negatively or positively the role that a government, that a collector office, that a panchayat system plays in the life of an individual. So maybe we should use this system to good effect with push from center, with a better coordinated mechanism. We can make this happen. And this whole duopoly about vaccine companies, 2 vaccine companies, we have wasted precious time till May. We have left a huge chunk of our young population, and we have criticized the government on various debates. But moving forward, we should get as many vaccine companies on board. We have enough hands. We have men, machine intellect, and we have IT intellect and all of that. We should use our talent to good use, and only then we can fight a united battle. And all this center state political sparring should end. This should be treated as a national emergency, and whatever constitutional measures are at the center's disposal should be used effectively, not to pressurize the states, but to take them on board and win this battle successfully.
Can I respond, please, Rhythm?
Yes, that's exactly the tone that we need right now. Ishkaran, okay, Gaurav, do respond. All right, Gaurav, to you first, and then I go across to Ishkaran and Saivaslam.
You know, to Ketan, I would only like to say one thing. For anybody to say that we have wasted time, it's a small example, Ketan, but very rightly, applied at this moment. For a vaccine to be invented, it generally takes 5 to 10 years. This is the international experience. Look at the commitment of our scientists and the resolve of the government that we were able to have 2 vaccines being built in India within a short span of 1 year. Regarding cooperative federalism, Narendra Modi ji has been having meetings with all the chief ministers, and there are a lot of positive suggestions also that come, and those are followed also. But to criticize for the sake of criticizing is not the need of the hour. And where have we progressed? That is very important. From 1 or 2 testing labs when COVID hit our country, we now have 1,400 labs. We have vaccinated 17 crore Indians. We also are getting Sputnik vaccine to India now. We have a health budget which is 137% more than last year. We have a 35,000 crore vaccine budget specially allocated. This shows the far-sightedness. So the answer is, will we win this battle against COVID? And the answer could only be one: yes, we will. And do you know why? It is because we have the strength of 135 crore Indians. We have to stand together and then defeat COVID.
Absolutely, Gaurav. That is the tone that we need to do fast. That's the tone that we need to take. I also want to ask Ishkaran then. Ishkaran, exactly this is what we are trying to say. When there are reports that continue to come out, that there is a fight, when people try to speak in that language, this is the time we need to understand how India is working together. Whether it's Chhattisgarh that's received vaccines after a call with Prime Minister Modi, can we deny, Ishkaran, that today there is hope? Today we're all following the COVID appropriate behavior. Today, like I said, the center releases 8,923 crore as early grants to panchayats in 25 states.
Rhythm, firstly, I am pleasantly surprised that we are having such a constructive debate on federal corporatism, because debates have become all about blaming either the center or the state. My view and consistent view over last 1 month is both center and states made certain grievous and grave mistakes. It just depends on your political affiliation, whether you want to point the mistakes of the center or you want to point the mistakes of a state government ruled by a party opposite to the center. Both made mistakes. People are dying in real time. Nobody can get credit for it. That is my view on both center and state. So I'm very happy that we are having a constructive debate on the issue, because the solution does not lie in blaming who did what in the past. That the electoral has to decide when they vote in elections. Right now, we have to bother about saving lives, and that can only be saved by a cooperation between center and state. Yesterday, I saw very positive news I want to share with your audiences, that in UK, after a peak of 1,800, 2,000 deaths in January, they reached 0 deaths. And I wish that day comes very soon in every state of India, because only if it comes into every state would it come into India that we have 0 deaths, and we have to go towards that. The worrying part is what the doctors, the eminent doctors on the panel and other doctors have said, that the third wave could be even more scary than the second wave, because it could target the young children, and that would be a devastation even worse than what we are facing. I hope that it doesn't come, but we can't live on hope. We have to build capacity across states, across center, and across the entire medical infrastructure, including a very, very rapid vaccination. Japan is facing what they say is the 4th wave, and the healthcare system is collapsing, which is a very advanced and developed country. So the only thing to be done, and I really am very happy that your channel is doing it, is cooperation right now. Politics happens in peace, politics happens in war. Let us not try to do politics in pandemic, because every life is, end of the day, Indian life. We need to scale up massively to save every life involved, because if we keep pointing fingers, that will reach nowhere. I believe that our system is doing that now. The Prime Minister is doing it. The Chief Ministers of every state are doing it, because they all want to save lives. The bureaucrats are doing their best. They are working overtime till 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the night. And we need to be extremely grateful, from doctors to technicians who come to take our tests, to everybody involved in the healthcare system, who are going into a zone which is a very dangerous zone, wearing equipment which we had only seen in sci-fi movies, that some germ has come and we had only seen that sort of a PPE kit in sci-fi movies. They are doing it daily for hours. So a special thanks with folded hand to all frontline workers, and let us please keep going with this cooperation to save every Indian life.
All right, so Ishwaran, today
this is the right tone, because it's cooperation that we are seeing here.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I mean, it's good that it's one of a kind of debate which I've seen where all of us are coming in consensus, where we need to be cooperative to fight against the unprecedented humanitarian crisis. This is a national and a national health disaster. It's important in the federal system like us. The Constitution expects us to come together and fight against this pandemic. Now, having said that, now there are, as Ishkaran rightly said, there are some political and administrative blunders which have happened. Those have to be certainly called out, and these have to be fixed immediately. Like you've seen what has happened yesterday and day before in UP and Bihar. There are more than 71 dead bodies which are floating around. Is that not a political and administrative failure? These are heart-rending scenes. Now, I understand that in this unprecedented humanitarian crisis, in this health disaster, we are not able to give medicine to people. We are not able to give hospital beds. We are not able to give the oxygen. But at least after they die, do they deserve a respectable funeral? We can't expect the bodies to be thrown in rivers like this. What happens to the families of these people? Do we have any respect for these people? I understand the government has taken a cue from the positive management. Let me finish, Ishkaran. I quietly listened to you. Let me just quickly finish. No, it's very positive. It is very positive that the Honorable Prime Minister and the central government has taken cognizance of the beautiful steps which are taken in Mumbai and Maharashtra, and it has to be replicated at the earliest. And also at the same time, the way Kerala has managed the pandemic, that also is appreciated, and those things also have to be picked up immediately. And coming back to Karnataka, which happens to be my home state, it has been a disaster. We are seeing huge number of cases. There's a surge of cases. In Bangalore alone, we get to see about 24,000 cases. But good, thank God to all the measures which are taken. Now the curve is flattening. The numbers of what I've seen today is really heartening. We have seen only about 16,000 odd cases in Bangalore. I hope the trend continues like this. Both the state and the center have to work together to ensure that this pandemic vanishes at the earliest. But the crisis of oxygen, let's not forget the crisis of oxygen, where the High Court of Karnataka had clearly said to the central government that yes, Karnataka needs 1,200 metric tons of oxygen that has to be delivered. Where it's so unfortunate, the central government went to the Supreme Court showing the oxygen which is supposed to save the lives. Oxygen which is supposed to save the lives.
Exactly what you're saying. Ishkaran also wants to come in, and I just want to say one point before I hand it to Ishkaran to what Syed Aslam is saying. Karnataka High Court said what they said, Syed Aslam, and the Supreme Court said that Karnataka shall be given the oxygen they will, and that is what happened, which is where I say the beauty of federalism, the beauty of the judiciary is all coming together to ensure oxygen is supplied and everything is done. Okay, Ishkaran wants to make a quick point and then I go across once again to Syed Aslam. Yes, Ishkaran.
Rhythm, a short point here. Syed bhai, just let me make a short point here. I want to make a short point here. Rhythm, see, when I spoke, I did not name any state. But you saw what Mr. Aslam did when he spoke. He said what is the problem in UP, Bihar, and then Bangalore. He will not talk about Chhattisgarh. He will not talk about the horror stories of Maharashtra. If we keep doing this, we will never reach to a pan-India solution. I did not deliberately name a state. I said, let me finish. Let me please finish. You will have your chance. I did not deliberately name a single state. I said both center and state have certain responsibilities they must answer. I would only request Mr. Aslam that while you try to sound very neutral, please do not pick and choose states. There are horror stories of Congress ruled states. There are horror stories of third front ruled states. There are horror stories of BJP ruled states. Because we are facing a pandemic, if we keep on doing this, cherry picking, finger pointing, we will not reach a solution. End of the day, I have relatives and friends across India, across political parties, as I'm sure do you. So let us please move to a constructive solution, say what should be done, what should not be done, what should be done pan-India, not cherry pick states, because that, while we try to sound neutral and then we cherry pick data, will not serve any purpose. That's my request. You want to keep attacking certain states, you can go ahead. The audiences will judge you.
I completely agree with you.
I want to now go across to Ranjit Keshav. I also want to ask Vikas Gupta this thing. Syed Aslam, just 1 minute. I also want to ask, where is the bias, like Ishkaran is talking correctly, Ranjit Keshav, when BJP and opposition rule, both states are being flagged for over 15% positivity rate. Where is the bias when Karnataka is adopting the BMC model? Where is the bias when the BMC chief has come forward and said the centre immediately coordinated and gave the help that he asked for?
See, I'm totally with Ishwaran, when he says that the responsibility is collective. But let's call a spade a spade. The last thing that we would want is young political leaders, making communal remarks and letting down the people of this country. I don't want to take names. I don't want to take political entities here, and kind of question the sanctity of this debate. But then we need to call a spade a spade. We don't want to see politicians making communal remarks and letting down people. That is one thing. And though the intention of this debate is quite positive, political representatives need to go back and defend their political parties and their decision making. Now, we need to understand two major things here. One is the cost part of it. As Ishkaran rightly said, the responsibility is collective of the state government as well as the central government. But we need to question the attitude and the behavior of the citizens as well. Like in my state, diagnosis leading the religious rituals and practices. And more than 100 priests were reported COVID positive. We saw what happened in UP. We saw what happened in Kumbh Mela. So the numbers are coming down are in lockdown right now. But what exactly is happening? question of people's attitude and behavior will come into play. And what exactly happened in the second wave, all of us know. The state governments were relaxed. The central government thought that we had actually won the war against corona, and people took it for granted. So the responsibility is collective. Now, this.
Okay, Ranjit, there is some network issue that I'll come back to you with, because I'll just sort out that line with you. Vikas Gupta, I also want to bring you into the debate, and I want to point out fingers here. We're not saying that we're not in the worst health crisis that India has ever seen in decades. We're not saying that we don't shoulder responsibility together. Let's be clear about it. We are saying that this is not the time for division. We are saying this is war footing that India is fighting on. We are saying this is no longer about center versus state, but India as one fighting the COVID battle. And that is something we need to acknowledge. When Team India's got a fighting plan, Vikas, when Health Ministry is in touch with state health secretaries, when 18 crore vaccines are distributed to the states, when dedicated cells are there to coordinate the foreign aid for states that we are seeing, when if aid is coming for Singapore, it is given to certain states that ask for it, when over 8,900 crore is given as early grants to panchayats, it is time to acknowledge we as a nation are fighting the COVID battle.
Well, of course, Rhythm. One thing is that politicians will always remain politicians, They won't stop patting their back, which one of the panelists did just a couple of minutes back. All politicians, all political parties failed a common citizen of this country in last 1 month. We were made to look that there did not exist a government in this country for 1 month. I'm not going to criticize anyone, neither it's going to be lofty words that we all need to unite, we all need to work. What is most important is, and which I want my political friends to take it back to their respective governments, whether it's the central government or the state government, Rhythm, is that they must flood the markets, bring material from wherever you want, whichever country materials are available in by way of oxygen concentrators, medicines, cylinders. Bring it back to India in the next 1 week, 10 days. Send hundreds of aircrafts which are used by airlines. Utilize those aircrafts which are standing and which are not being utilized at this point in time. Flood the market. Don't worry. Indians have deep pockets. They will buy as much as you can supply, so that can be given to poor people as relief measures by people who have means to buy that material. What is difficulty today, Rhythm, is not the money is not the difficulty. Difficulty is the supply, and that is the responsibility both of the central and the state government. Secondly, which I would say, as far as the vaccines are concerned, you don't worry whether Pfizer or Moderna requires 20 degrees or 70 degrees for freezing capacities. Indian manufacturers, Indian industrialists, Tata's, Reliance, Biocons have enough capabilities. Just allow them. Don't create bottlenecks, which you've been doing for last 3 months for import, for giving them usage permission in India. Allow these industrialists to import these vaccines, bring those vaccines. At least the pressure in the urban areas would be reduced so that Covishield and Covaxin can be utilized for administering to poor people, for giving those jabs to poor people in rural India. Please take my suggestion seriously, Gaurav Bhatia. Take it back to your government. Allow these entrepreneurs to import expensive vaccines to India. Allow them to give it to their employees, to urban India, where 40 crores middle class can afford a jab of Pfizer and Moderna. Allow Covishield and Covaxin, ramp up their production, give it to free to the masses in this country. That is how you are going to save life. Otherwise, as you rightly said, people will demonstrate their anger in the ballot boxes.
Can I respond, Rao, with them?
Okay, Gaurav wants to make a point. Go ahead, Gaurav.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
I must say that, Mr. Aslam, the panelist, is like a leopard. But not for the bravery that a leopard has, but because a leopard cannot change its spots. I, as a politician, did not inject politics into this debate. But Mr. Aslam, being a political analyst, injected politics. But I will leave it to him. Please, Mr. Aslam, in your turn. So I'll leave it to Mr. Aslam to introspect. This is a very positive debate, and in that spirit, I just want to say one or two things. Vikas ji, he's a colleague at the bar, and I would only say, Vikas ji, it is important that we trust the scientists, we trust the experts, rather than trying to substitute our wisdom for what they are saying. The example is Covaxin itself. The scientist, ICMR, and the drug controller of India decided that it is safe for the citizens of the country. And without getting into politics, there were parties and chief ministers of states who said that we don't want Covaxin. Today they are demanding Covaxin. So what is the lesson? The lesson is simple. Let the expert do his job. And that applies for availability, that applies for diplomacy, that applies for every measure that the government is taking, because there are experts who are advising the central government and the Prime Minister. Second, the governments, the state governments also need to ask themselves that yes, the center is doing, according to you, it might be enough or not enough, but what are you doing for the people? Because in that spirit only can the country move forward. And I would say, look at the beauty of our cooperative federalism. When it came to vaccines, do you know which state got the maximum number of vaccines? It was Maharashtra. Half the population of Uttar Pradesh, yet it got more vaccines than Uttar Pradesh. The reason was simple, because it was facing a crisis because of the numbers. And the central government and Narendra Modi ji did not discriminate on the basis of a BJP ruled state and a non-BJP ruled state. Oxygen. Is it not nice that Haryana, which is an oxygen producing state, gave its quota for Delhi? Because these are ultimately our citizens. And the oxygen went there, and we ensured that precious human lives are saved. And in the end, I will say the country is also lucky, because even the vaccination drive is one of the largest and the fastest, as JP Nadda ji, our national president, today in a letter mentioned. There is no policy paralysis. There is no corruption allegation, and there will never be, because every rupee is being utilized for the citizens. And third, there is no VVIP culture. The Prime Minister of the country waits for the doctors to first get vaccinated.
Constructively work. Until unless you don't accept the feedback, I would like to appreciate... I don't know why
you have to interrupt. Aslam ji,
no, I'm not interrupting.
I know you are a leper.
I guess
you can take a giant leap.
Thank you so much.
Please,
Gaurav, thank you so much. I appreciate the proficiency and command of your language. Thank you so much. I appreciate the proficiency and command of your language. Let's get to reality now. Let's get to reality.
Yes,
the reality is the blunders which have happened cannot be hidden. If it is paid, let's call it a spade.
Aslam,
this is the blunder which has happened. People of this nation asked the question. It is my responsibility to bring it to everyone's notice.
No, it's
Gaurav,
my responsibility also.
Have you shown any? It's a disgrace that we are seeing so many bodies on the banks of Ganges. You don't have any remorse. You don't have any remorse. Sir, I don't want to.
I'm asking you a question.
Sir, I asked you a question in the perspective of the debate. I asked you a question in the perspective of a debate. You have not shown any remorse. Your government, the UP government and Bihar government have not shown an inch of remorse. There are so many bodies, 71 bodies floating around on the Ganges River. 70.
I will disagree.
Be dirty. It's a blunder. You're not taking the responsibility for it. You're not taking the responsibility for it. You are asking Nitish Kumar to take responsibility, and he's asking Yogi to take responsibility.
I will not engage
Is there any responsibility?
This is political mudslinging. I refuse to engage with it.
I want to get Ranjit Keshav into the debate. I've heard both your points, but this is not going to be about any regional particular state. Ranjit Keshav was making a point, and I want to also go across to our doctors. Like I said on Republic TV, we are seeing the voice of reason comes from them, because they are the hope, not only as frontline warriors, but as people who are telling us how we move forward. So before I come across to our doctors, Ranjit Keshav, we lost your there was a technical glitch there. We're talking about hope, but we're also talking about hope here with facts. I don't want to get into federalism only on why it's on a war footing, but I also give facts about how Chhattisgarh received vaccines when they got a call. I also want to give facts about the centre acknowledging vaccines are opened up upon repeated suggestions by the state. This was in an affidavit that they filed in the Supreme Court. Vaccines are now available with each state, Ranjit Keshav. This is like we've been saying on Republic TV, we being on the right track is India.
No, absolutely. I would like to make a very valid point with Gaurav. I've had very cordial discussions with him on television channels. So I just want to make one particular point to him. He said that the central government had fast-tracked the vaccination policies, and so is the other countries. And he also said that the maximum number of vaccines were distributed to Maharashtra, and it is the same Maharashtra where Aditya Thackeray is talking about procuring vaccinations from outside the country. Now, with decentralization of procurement and distribution, this is only going to get chaotic in the next 6 months. We need to understand that. Close to around 13 to 14% of people have been vaccinated. Less than 5% have been given double dosages. If you are going to decentralize the procurement and distribution, this is going to create a lot of chaos in the next 5 to 6 months. Look at the pricing part of it. It was very appalling to see state governments writing letters to the central government saying that it has to be at the same price of 150 rupees, where Adar Poonawalla categorically came out and said that it was only for the first 2 batches, and after the 20 crore vaccines will be distributed, the prices will be same for the central government and the state government. Now, this is exactly what will happen in the next 5 to 6 months if you are going to decentralize the procurement and distribution. So, Gaurav, my only request is please take back this message to the central government saying that in the decentralization of procurement and distribution will only bring chaos in this country for the next 5 to 6 months. If people talk about procuring vaccinations from outside the country, people talk about getting vaccination without any sort of rational reasons, it is only going to create more chaos, and then federalism will become detrimental for this country and our people.
Okay, Ranjit, you've made a very valid point. Now, I also want to once again go back to our doctors here. Dr. Swati Maheshwari, a question that's being asked by several people who are writing in, citizens who are asking us, viewers who are calling in. How long do you think the second wave is going to be? What are the precautions, of course, that need to be taken? What is the time gap that now needs to be given between the 2 jabs?
Okay, quite an important question. See, first of all, it's very difficult to predict right now as to where our peak would be and when we would be approaching it and when we would see a downfall, because like we see right now, some days the numbers are high, the other few days the numbers are down. So then again we catch up on the numbers. So it's very difficult to say right now, and especially more because now the numbers are rising more in the villages and the districts and all, and we are not getting accurate numbers from these places. So it's very difficult to predict right now as to when our peak would be. But hoping that the major mayhem we have crossed over, that's what I feel, and I feel that the numbers should not be exponential from here. They should be hovering somewhere around 4 lakh only, and we should not be seeing the spike higher than that. That's what my assumptions are right now, and I hope so. But, when I would come to the jabs also, as you mentioned, but there is one thing that I would definitely like to mention, that though we have crossed the storm as it appears right now, and I have my fingers crossed here right now, what we felt and the pain that we felt as healthcare workers was that if you look at the initial 2 months when we were struggling with the increased load and we were struggling with the shortage of the supplies and the oxygen and everything, we were shouting out, we were, sending messages, we were sending out all kind of indications that we could to the government, and what we got in return was mostly, the fight between the center and the state, which was very, very painful. And eventually, it was the court which had to intervene to actually, iron out the differences between the two. Because our country having ample amount of oxygen, having ample amount of vaccines and everything, yet, things are not getting delivered to the people who actually need it and when they need it, which is very, very critical. And that's why, we saw so many casualties. So somewhere or the other, I think all the political parties, for that matter, should sit down and think as to how and what should be their constructive role in this entire pandemic. So if we are trying to pull each other's hair, then I'm sure we are not going to land up anywhere. So the opposition has to be very, very constructive in what all kind of suggestions they are giving. And also the government needs to have an ear which is ready to hear to all these kind of suggestions and, kind of adapt themselves adjust themselves to the new strategies, to the new conditions that are appearing each and every day, because we need to understand that when we are dealing with the pandemic, the situations are not same. They keep on changing. It's a dynamic situation. So we really need to change our strategies all the time. We cannot go on with the same strategies that we had a couple of days back. So we need to be prepared, and we need to move ahead of the virus and not behind the virus. That is something that we should be really, right now focusing in on. And therefore, I feel all the political parties need to get together today, because united we stand and divided we fall. That is so very, very essential for all of us to understand right now. Coming back to the jab, definitely see there are 2-3 scenarios that are there right now. One, you took the first jab, but you got COVID positive, and now you want to know when is the second jab that you should be taking. In that situation, see, we have to wait for 2 to 4 weeks after the negative report before you take the jab. In case you took the first jab, but you had mild illness, which was not COVID for that matter, then you can wait for a week and then go for the jab. And the third group as well are people who were waiting who took the first jab, but now because of the vaccine deficiency and the vaccines not being available, they are worried as to when they should go for the second jab. For them also, I would say, if you hold on for the next 3 months also, if your vaccine gets delayed, the second shot gets delayed for the 3 months, it is nothing to worry as such. So you should not panic right now, and you should wait for your chance. That's what I would say.
Absolutely, Dr. Maheshwari. Dr. Vishal, I also want to ask you, you're also a member of the expert committee of the COVID task force in Karnataka. The national task force has now been set up by the Supreme Court that's going to monitor the allocation of oxygen across the country, the audits on the allocation, and the center-state cooperation that continues. So in the sense that Dr. Maheshwari has said, we have to be ready because the new mutation, the new virus is getting into different molds, is getting into different roles, and therefore we have to be one step ahead of it.
Sure. Rhythm, this is a very, very important and pertinent question right now, and let me put some figures in perspective. Now, if you look at Karnataka's numbers a few days back, we were at about 50,000 new cases per day. Now, on an average, if you see the statistics, about 17% of these patients will require oxygen. So put together at 50,000, it is about 8,500 patients per day who will require oxygen. Now, on an average, if you take an estimated thing that Karnataka has about 120,000 beds, of which half of them are oxygenated, and naturally every state is similarly looking at numbers, and they're looking at more oxygenation. Even at half the number of oxygenations, if you run these numbers of every day 50,000, in the next 1 month, you can imagine 255,000 cases. Or in 2 weeks, you can imagine 125,000 cases coming up, which itself no healthcare system can handle. This is not a game to be won in the hospitals. This is more complex than that. So I would like to just put in on a positive note that no matter what healthcare system of the world today is not geared up for a population-based admission. It is not geared up for it. At this juncture, I would like to end up on a positive note to say, I think we need to look at cooperative federalism and not competitive federalism. And we would also I would like to put a special thanks for our nurses who have often been ignored in terms of the topic. Today, the frontline, real, true, genuine worker who's sitting and holding the fort is the nurses. And I want to put a special mention on national TV, on Republic channel, to tell you a special thanks to all the nursing community who may not even get the time to listen and participate in this. They are just working their double, triple shifts out. And I think it's them who are protecting this country today, along with the medical fraternity and the other healthcare workers. And we need to all salute to the nurses, especially at this juncture. And like how in medical fraternity today, I mean, I'm saying in my surgical OT, we have people with 3 differences sitting and arguing with each other. We sit in the coffee lounge and we argue, and then we go back and save lives. We just need to sit and do our work. And I'm 100% sure every state, every center, federal office, every minister, every CM, PM is only working to save lives. I have no doubt about it today. And my confidence comes only from that hope that we as a country today, we are a republic nation. The responsibility of this country lies in the hands of the public. And so it is only the public that has to mask up and stop the virus. The virus does not have hands and legs. It is we who are moving this virus. So let us stop the virus there. And let us work together to every single step to ensure that we're going to win this game. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Rao, like you said, and like I always say, our doctors always leading that not only as frontline warriors, but also gentlemen, ladies, as someone who's going to lead this fight very, very positively. We thank our nurses, like Dr. Rao said. We thank Dr. Maheshwari. I thank all my panelists for being with us. And viewers, we end this not only on a positive note, but we also say we know these are difficult times, these are tough times, these are challenging times. But India is going to overcome this, and like Dr. Rao said, like Dr. Maheshwari said, vaccines is the way to go. We can only overcome this united together. Thank you for being with us on the debate. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being a part of the Republic TV debate. Thank you.